Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Fun and Games Podcast. I'm Geoff Moonen.
And I am Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
And you're listening to episode 66. And as of the day that this episode drops, happy end of Thanksgiving, happy start of a massive, massive shopping season. Happy Black Friday.
Yeah, if sitting in line outside of stores is your thing and you do it, great. I'm not going to judge you too much, but I am too old at the ripe age of 36 to be bothered with that stuff. But more power to you if you can do it and get the deals, but that's not for me.
Also internet.
that too.
The last time I tried to do a Black Friday deal was a couple of years ago. GameStop had a release of like new Nintendo 3DSs, and I mean new Nintendo, not like they are new as opposed to used, but that was the name of the kind that it was.
Right.
You know, ease of convenience. But they were selling them for $100, and they had like these really cool Mario designs on them. And Sarah was looking to get a new 3DS. So unbeknownst to her, she was out of town. I woke up at like 4 a.m. and walked to the GameStop like 15 blocks from my apartment and waited in line. And I was like 2 people too far back to get it.
Oh, no.
And just walked back home. Sad.
That sucks.
So after that, it's like, you know what? I'll try to get deals online. I'm fine.
Yeah, I think I did the whole TV spiel once. Maybe when I was still living in Staten Island. In a previous relationship, I think we did the whole standing in line to get a good TV deal, and it ended up being worth it, but like it was harrowing.
Yeah.
Mostly my yearly tradition is when Steam starts their Black Friday sales, seeing how many games I can get for $50. My record so far is 8 games, I think, for $50,
nice.
Which isn't bad. I mean, a couple of them were like Sonic Adventure DX, which was like $1 or $2, but like there's usually at least one like newer game that's reduced to $20 for Black Friday.
Nice, yeah.
But it's funny, I don't use my PC games for streaming as often due to ease of convenience. It's just easier with one monitor to stream a console game.
Right, yeah.
It works differently with Streamlabs, but that said, I do plan on going through my backlog of Steam stuff at some point, but like this might be the first year I don't buy a ton of games during Black Friday because I've mostly been playing my Switch. Now that said, I have like $12 to $13 worth of gold points on my Switch, so if there are any Black Friday eShop deals, I could be in trouble, and that's a different story.
And there probably will be. Like Nintendo does always some kind of Black Friday sale, but they rarely drop prices on the console per se.
Correct.
What they've been doing with the Switch the past few years has been, all right, we're selling it for the same price, but bundled with a retail game digitally.
Right.
Is usually the thing. And you know what? Hey, if their sales figures are still good, more power to them.
For sure.
Yeah.
Before we get into the meat of this episode, no Thanksgiving pun intended, although I guess it works. I wanted to double back and come full circle on our conversation in the last episode about Pokemon, as Geoff and I have both acquired the newest Pokemon. I purchased Sword.
As did I.
Okay, so we do both have the same version, and we've both been playing it for, I guess now, as of when we're recording, about a week.
Yes.
And
I've been doing it very slowly.
And I just want to talk early impressions. Yeah, I just finished the 4th gym, I think.
You're way ahead of me.
And I've been taking it fairly slow too. But I just wanted to get some impressions on some stuff and check in with Geoff and see how he's liking it. Overall, I really love the new game. I think some of the changes that we anticipated are turning out to be really great. Like seeing the Pokemon in the wild, in the tall grass, while they're still being surprise battles sometimes in the tall grass, I think is the perfect blending of those two kinds of random battles.
Yeah, and you can't see whether or not they're shiny until you start the battle, but you can see gender differences where that matters in terms of either breeding or evolutions. The very first wild Pokemon I encountered was a female Combee, which trying to find one of those back in Pokemon Diamond was an exercise in hair-tearing frustration So to just see it and go, oh, I see the triangle. That's the one that will actually evolve and catch it. You know what? Oh my God, I got so much goodwill for that.
I do like the addition to more ridiculous kinds of Pokeballs. My favorite one is the Quick Ball, which if you use it the minute a battle starts, you have a very high chance of catching that Pokemon. And
We've had those.
Oh, have we? Were they in the last gen?
I think so, yeah. Quick balls and fast balls and yeah.
Okay, then maybe I just didn't remember. Well, either way, them being in this game, it's my favorite new kind of Pokeball that I stock up on, just because like one of the down notes in this game, and I'm sure this was consistent with the other games, but like some of the Pokemon that are impossible to catch and you waste like 10 Pokeballs on, Great Balls in like the second or third area, it's like makes me want to tear my hair out. And I know that kind of RNG was in the original games and even the most recent ones, but like just seems more frustrating now.
Yeah, well, that's just also a general like, I only have so much time. Stop making this hard.
Right? Or like if my favorite was I had a Doug Trio who I had poisoned with my coughing. And so I had 3 chances to catch him. And of course he broke out every time and then the poison killed him. And I was like, son of a... I'm actually curious about your thoughts on the wild area.
I really like it.
Okay.
It's a nice compromise in terms of it's the one spot in the game where you're allowed to use the second analog stick to control the camera.
Yep.
As so you kind of have this open world feel in limited areas that, you know, easy transitions from spot to spot. There's things to check out. It feels very, and it's a little while into the game, like half an hour, 40 minutes before you're in the first wild area. And I got the game first day. It arrived like at the end of Friday, but it got there. On Tuesday, I had a game night, and my friend Greg came over with his copy of S.H.I.E.L.D. And the both of us were just running around the wild area, just kind of, there's a lot of different Pokemon here. I'm not used to running into this many different types so quickly. And because while there is the, you know, the whole upset that not every single Pokemon is in the game, the Pokedex is full for what the game is the entire time. So rather than being 150 that then becomes hundreds and hundreds, it starts at 400 Pokemon.
Yeah.
So there's a very different feeling. And my like quick summation of, and I was talking about this with a friend of mine who he canceled his order because he's like, I know this isn't a bad game per se, but it's not the Pokemon game I want.
Mm-hmm.
And because the thing was, the DS and the 3DS were great systems for Pokemon.
Mm-hmm.
Having the second screen, so you have a touch screen to handle all of your menuing and everything. Fantastic. You have like your super training, your Poketch, your everything else. That's all there. That's fantastic. Sometimes you could be looking at your party the entire time while you're working with everything. It set itself up very nicely for a certain sort of deep work in the game.
Right.
For all of the breeding and the IVs and the EVs and everything else. Stuff that was put into the game and meant to be hidden that we all just like dug into and found. Right. The fact that it's a little less, we've lost a little control in that is not because Game Freak decided to take it away from us, that kind of did, but more because we dug in further and now we don't have as much of a purchase.
Right.
So Pokemon Sword and Shield are not necessarily fantastic Pokemon games for fans of that style.
Right.
I think it's a more than adequate Pokemon game. Some of the quality of life updates are fantastic. They've never been bad at that.
Yeah.
It is, however, a better RPG, I think.
Oh, I would absolutely 100% agree with that. I think
which is a very subjective thing, I understand, but just to my feeling, it feels like a better RPG.
So I think my biggest issue with Sun and Moon was the fact that the story didn't grip me. I didn't feel the world. Whereas this game, because of the way it's designed, the way the characters interact, I just felt more invested. I would say my one issue with the wild area is that it is impossible to identify just by looking at the Pokemon if they are too strong for you to catch, because one of the new mechanics in the game is not only do the badges allow you to train and use Pokemon of a certain level, but now in the wild area, it kind of gatekeeps how high of a level of Pokemon you can catch.
Which is actually something I've always wanted to see in Pokemon.
Yes.
Where the idea of like, okay, you are a trainer. Here is your trainer card and everything else. The notion of we're just going to let 10-year-olds run wild in the woods. Yeah. There's going to be no limits on what they can do, where they can go. We're just going to let this happen. As a gamer, as someone like playing this game, you're like, great, I can do whatever I want. But I also enjoy the notion of like, all right, no, you got to prove you can do this. Beat this shit. Like, it's not just an abstract, okay, Pokemon up to this level will obey you now. It's, okay, you've successfully done these challenges. And they've also constructed the story so that the idea of doing the gym challenges is a much more, like, streamlined and officiated kind of thing.
For sure.
Ever since playing Final Fantasy Tactics Advance for the first time, I was like, why isn't, like, the law system and judgments in Pokemon? It would set up so nicely. You go to a gym battle and it's like, hey, I brought my Charmander to this grass gym. No, this is a grass gym. We train grass Pokemon. Our grass Pokemon are fighting. Like, I don't think they'll ever do that. Yeah. But having this notion with the league cards, you know what? I'm into it.
Yeah, for sure. And again, the basic premise of that I really dig. I agree. However, when you go into the wild area, if there's a Pokemon above your level, it says you've encountered a very strong such and such. You cannot run away immediately, and you cannot catch it. And like the not being able to catch it part, I don't mind. But the fact that it's a struggle to run away, and if you have no Pokedolls, you're an item that was more or less fairly useless in the past. I get making them more important and giving you something that's hard to escape from so you have a reason to have them.
And they also make the wild area feel a little more dangerous. And we all now have a universal experience of that specific Onix.
Yes, right, exactly. And you're absolutely correct. Yeah. Like, you walk into the wild area, there's an Onix right there, you go, ooh, an Onix, I want it. And then it kills.
Did you look at it and you go, is it a super strong giant one? Or is it just Onix is big? They were just talking about really big Pokemon being so. All right, let's check this out. How much higher level can it be? Twice my level. Okay.
And then it wipes out half your team before you can finally run away. Like,
yes, and so it's this fun object, and you're also right at that point. You're right near somebody that can heal your Pokemon.
Right.
So it's this really fun object lesson in. Okay, the wild area can be a little dangerous, and Pokemon will chase you, and you can see it happen now. And some will chase you regardless of if you're looking at them. Some, if you look at them, they'll stop. Some just want to come up and say hi and just be fun.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of interesting little quirks to it.
Yeah, I think my biggest complaint is just that there's no way to look at a Pokemon and identify that it's too high for you. I get that that's part of it, right? There's risk and reward. And I'm mostly just a complaining nerd, and I'm totally okay with that. But I guess I just wish, like, it's more frustrating when you like beat a gym and you're told you have to take the wild area to get to the next gym. This happens later, past where you are, and in the area between those two locations, 90% of the Pokemon are too high for you to catch. And that's frustrating to me as someone who's thinks of, is used to the routes, and it's like, oh, I'm going to catch everything on the way. And so that's a little frustrating for me.
No, you got to struggle, you've got to fight, you've got to train. This isn't just a buffet of all the Pokemon you can catch. This is a dungeon now.
I will say, however, on the other side, my favorite thing that this game has done is the raid battles, because it's the most fun way to catch new Pokemon, especially if you're, like, for me, I was online with a friend in Discord last night playing raids together, and we were just taking turns jumping into raids to see if there were Pokemon either of us needed, and it's a blast. Also, Dynamaxing is, I don't care what the science is. The game is going to hit us over the head with it, and I get it, and it's fine. I do not care. You've given me a wristband that allows me to make my Pokeball and the Pokemon inside it ginormous. I'm in. I don't need an explanation. Giant Pokemon, I'm in.
It was pointed out to me again. I'm not far enough into it. I was talking with a friend a few days ago, and he pointed out that there's Dynamaxing and there's Gigantamaxing.
Right.
And Dynamaxing is making your Pokemon like huge, and Gigantamaxing is turning them into a new form.
Correct.
Which is a dynamic change.
Correct.
They named them wrong.
Yeah, no, I agree. Dynamic and gigantic. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, and it's hilarious.
And that's a little frustrating. And I guess my last little I'm happy quality of life update has nothing to do with the game specifically, just the environment. When Greg came over and we were like comparing Sword and Shield, something else we did. We had secondary profiles on our Switch. So we started new games on those profiles. Picked different starters than in our main file, caught a couple version exclusives, and then traded those to our main profiles. So we were able to do some starter trades amongst friends, as you do, without having to start whole new files. And after 20 years of like having to jump on this and be like, don't go too far yet. We've got to spend the next 3 hours getting everybody enough starters from like one save file. You know what? It does take about 40 minutes to get to the point where you can trade, but you don't have to get rid of your first file.
Yeah.
And you know what? Great quality of life update, even if it's just incidental. I feel so good about it.
That's fair. I have to shout out Nerd House, who's a streamer and a Twitter personality, I guess, that I'm friends with, who within days of getting the game, because he's a psychopath, had a Ditto and started breeding like a mofo. And so I have all 3 starters thanks to him. So shout out to Nerd House. I did not have to do any trade muling, but I do agree that even coincidental, that is an awesome thing and something I'd been thinking about. To wrap up this conversation before we move on to what we're going to talk about today, of the Pokemon that you've used so far, do you have a favorite, either old one doing new things or new Pokemon?
I like the new Meowth.
Really? With its weird beard?
It is my steel goblin child.
It really looks like a goblin. Like the first time it chased me, and that like
the
beard
smile
skin,
on its face. I'm just
so weird.
that is a gremlin that does not know fear.
That's legit.
That thing never sleeps, or it only sleeps when I sleep. I don't know. I love it. He's so ugly. I love him.
Yeah, that sounds about right. So I do like all the new starters, though I have favorites amongst them. But I think it's tough for me since I'm further than you. I've seen a few more things. I have Sirfetch'd already, my Sword Onion boy, who I bought the sword for, and I love him. But I think my favorite Pokemon that I currently have is I do have Galarian Weezing. And
I'm excited about getting a Galarian Weezing.
He is just a delightful Brit boy who I love. My dirty poison boy. I did post, and I don't know if Chris listens to this podcast, but shout out to Chris Cooper, who's an actor who I'm friends with, who's English, who's from Britain. But I did tweet out a picture of the Galarian Weezing right after I got him, and then on the tweet I just wrote "pip pip cheerio" and like a bunch of like stereotypical British, old timey male speak, and
the sort of thing. Yes, very
yeah,
much.
exactly. And so I was secretly hoping that he'd see the tweet and get fake offended, but he hasn't said anything, so I figured I'd shout it out here. But yeah,
he's being a gentleman about it. Very good.
Yes, quite.
Indeed.
So anyway, that's our thoughts initially on Pokemon Sword, which we're both playing. I love the game. I'm really digging it overall, and I'm excited to discover more of it.
At a different point in my life, I might have been more upset about this or that or happier about this and that. But at this point right now, I'm really enjoying the game.
Yeah, as somebody who has never collected them all ever in the history of Pokemon, I knew that I would be perfectly happy with this game. The fact that it has a multiplayer gimmick that's fairly easy to jump in and out of with friends is my favorite thing about it. Because that's the one thing that killed me about previous Pokemon games is that, you could battle each other head to head and that's fine. But I'm not a strategist, so for me, I just kind of pick the Pokemon I like, and so the head-to-head battles were less fun. But the fact that raids exist and you can just jump in with your buddies or jump in with strangers if you're in the wild area is really a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a cool thing.
Alrighty, shall we get to our main topic?
Yeah, let's move on.
So I thought it might be fun, besides talking about, the holidays and the insanity that is capitalist society around Thanksgiving, was to talk about some of the things that Geoff and I are thankful when it comes to gaming. We've talked about a lot of different things on the show at this point, 65 episodes worth. And, we share often about personal things and things that we really appreciate. And I thought it might be fun to be thankful, to do a Thanksgiving special and kind of just talk about either specific moments, specific game series, a specific game, a specific gaming moment that we're really thankful for, that either affected our lives, affected how we developed as gamers, inspired us to do things, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. It's nice to, and again, coming off of talking about Pokemon, and a lot of people are very upset about things. It's also nice to, and you know what? There's always going to be things to complain about, and you know what? A lot of times people do complain, and they have legitimate complaints, and that's all well and good. But it's also nice to, this is a big hobby, this is a big medium, this is a big history, and there's a lot of big and little things. Something off the top of my head. It's a very silly little material thing.
Uh-huh.
I am very thankful. This covers a lot of things. I'm thankful for my Katamari Damacy enamel pin.
Nice.
Because it was something that Sarah got for me as a surprise gift. Just she saw it and went, Jeff needs this. It is the Prince of all Cosmos with a Katamari, and the Katamari spins.
Oh, that's
so
amazing.
It's on my jacket that I wear all the time. And getting to see people with little kids that just like the colorful pin, and then it spins, and they now have a favorite thing. And then you can sing the Katamari theme to them. And because it is such a simple, catchy little melody, and the only words are na, I taught it to my niece, and she would spin it and go, nana, nana.
Amazing.
She's a little over a year old, nana.
Adorable.
And it's a game, and it's a game that I love, and it's a game that I've waxed about a great deal. And a silly little thing like that, and not just little kids enjoying the colorfulness, it makes me happy. And it's also a recognizable piece that in all kinds of areas, walks of life, random moments, people see that, they recognize it, and it's a fun little touchstone. It's one thing to have like video game stuff on, but something that's so very specific to a very specific series that like someone sees that, and fans of Katamari Damacy are usually pretty enthusiastic about it.
Yeah.
So, that is a touchstone of, I'm thankful for the creativity of fandoms that nowadays, Sarah is able to own a skirt that has environments like watercolored on from Yoshi's Island.
Mm-hmm.
That I have that little pin that I'm currently right now wearing Super Mario 1 themed socks. And it's specifically Mario 1 because of the way the sprites look. And yes, that is being a consumer whore and how. But it's also a wonderful way of, most people don't see my socks from day to day, but I can put them on and just feel very, happy, validated. I don't know how you want to look at it, but those little things that are, I choose this, I display this.
Sure.
And that it's okay, and that you find others who reflect it.
For sure. I can build on that with my Evolutions of Bulbasaur Pokemon shirt that I wear all the time. It's a dress shirt that has the various forms of Bulbasaur, Ivysaur, and Venusaur. Sarah got it for me on ThinkGeek before it went under, and I wear it all the time. And every time I wear it, I get complimented on that shirt by at least one person, because there are Pokemon fans everywhere. And it's also one of my more dapper shirts that I wear that I really like. Because if you're not aware of Pokemon, it just kind of looks like an interesting, almost Hawaiian shirt. But if you are into Pokemon, it is very clear what it is. And I love that kind of stuff. And yes, at the end of the day, talking about gaming, and this is actually a conversation I interacted with someone who was on Autographs, who's a little more shameful of his gaming habits, which is fine. We all interact in the media with however we deem right, I guess.
Yeah.
But like at the end of the day, it is a consumer product, and he said something along the lines of like, if you're just a gamer and that's all you identify as, he views it as sad because you're basing your entire personality on a consumer product. And I get that to a degree. Like if you don't have anything else going on in your life except playing games, and you are one of the let's just say overly divisive internet gamers who only identifies as that and feels like robbed if it's taken away from you, I get seeing that in a negative light. I think putting
all your eggs in one basket in any sense can be easily disrupted.
For sure. And so we acknowledge that, yes, it's a consumer product. We're buying a thing and we love a thing that we buy. But at the end of the day, 90% of art is purchased because that's how you get more art. Yes, argument games is art. I'm not going into that. But I think
you don't say this to people about like, oh, you buy a lot of books.
Yeah.
Oh, way to buy into the capitalist machine, sheep. And there's just as many people making freeware games and making weird ideas and just putting them out there. They don't become games once you put a price tag on them.
Correct. Just some of the games we love the most have a large price tag on them, and that's just the way it is sometimes. But shifting the conversation back to what we're thankful for, I want to take a moment to talk about how thankful I am for one of my favorite game series of all time. And if you can't guess what that is, you're not listening to my other podcast.
It's Call of Duty, right?
Right, exactly, totally. Love the COD series, and Blops. COD Blops is my favorite. That's Black Ops. Anyway, it's the Mass Effect series. For those who don't know, I do another podcast called Reignite with MJ Bradley Lestrange, and it's a deep dive into the Mass Effect series. We're about halfway through replaying Mass Effect 2. But why I'm thankful for that game series so much, with all of its flaws, is because at the end of the day, it taught me things about myself and about relationships that, like, I never really thought I would glean from a game. And I'm not just talking about like sexual relationships or romantic relationships, but just relationships with other people. The interactions between the characters get so deep and so intricate, and the story is so interconnected that it is impossible to not get sucked into it if you have an ounce of care for any of the characters. And it's changed the way I look at video games. You know, I can play games that are superficial and that are do a thing or here's a really silly story with ease. But when it comes to detailed storytelling, I have a standard now that I never had before because of how I interacted with this game. And why certain RPGs, especially Western RPGs, fall short for me is because Mass Effect hit on it in a way that no other game seems to really get close to. And I'm just so thankful to have that touch point in gaming, because I've found now replaying it and discussing it with MJ, I'm rediscovering touch points in my own life, my own sexuality, my own self-discovery, my own intellectualness, which I know isn't a word, but bear with me. My own intellect, I guess, that I don't think I would have ever discovered without this game series. And that's a powerful thing to get from a video game.
It absolutely is. And it sets standards. There are games that you play that's like, well, can't go back.
Yeah, you can't unlearn things. I mean, I think that's part of some of the, valid outrage about Pokemon. I mean, none of the angry white men rage is valid, but all of the valid arguments about wanting to do certain things in the game that you can't come from a place of people have a certain standard for this game series. And even though it's evolving to bring in new players, some of the old players are regretful that things are disappearing. And I get that. Once you have a standard for what you look for in a certain game, games, series, media in general, it is hard to just undo that knowledge. I mean, almost impossible. You can make exceptions, you can make excuses, but at the end of the day, if you have a standard for something, you're going to stick to it. And I think that comes from the games we play and the moments within those games that we experience.
Yeah, and you're able to, you don't expect the level of interactivity and storytelling of Mass Effect 2 on every gaming experience you have.
Correct.
But when a game purports to be dynamic in its storytelling, when it advertises emotional choices, there's a new lens. It's
honestly one of the reasons I've avoided The Outer Worlds till now. A game that I do want to play, I've heard great things about, but a lot of people have compared it to Mass Effect without the relationships. The main character can't fall in love, which is fine. I get that.
Yeah.
I think you can still have very in-depth storytelling, decision-making, and relationships without it. And I've heard that there are representation for non-binary and transgender characters in the game done well, and across the queer spectrum actually in the game. And I'm excited to see that, but I'm also hesitant because I'm afraid I'm going to go into it and go, but is it Mass Effect? What's helped is there are some Mass Effect players who have said it is actually very good and you should play it, even though it's not Mass Effect. And so that,
don't expect Mass Effect, but if you like Mass Effect, you will enjoy it.
right. And so that's made me more curious. I think I'm going to wait for a sale at this point. I mean, I also am head down in Pokemon so much at this point anyway.
Yep.
But it definitely, because of how much Mass Effect has meant for me, it has made me hesitant to play a game like that that's being directly correlated to it.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I am on a personal level.
Mm-hmm.
I am thankful for the random generosity that gaming can often have, whether in a digital sense or a physical sense. I recently had reason to pull my PS1 off of my display shelf to put it into service for a day.
Mm-hmm.
I have a PS2 to play PS1 and PS2 games. It takes up way less space. I've got so few inputs as it is on my TV.
Right.
And I realized the PS1 that I have is kind of I got it down and it sounded like something was shaking inside it and it wasn't quite reading discs. So I need to fix it. But I don't think I'm going to get rid of it because I've spoken before about how when I was in college, I sold the vast majority of my gaming collection.
Right.
Every single console, like TV console game that I had, the consoles, the games, gone. And a lot of my handheld stuff. I eventually was like, you know what, I'll hold on to my DS and a couple of games because that was the regular DS was what was the latest at the time and I liked it. And Pokemon and all that. And I thought I was making a mature and good decision. I needed the money, all kinds of stuff. Broke college students, what happens. But I moved into an apartment my last year of college, and the guy moving out of that room had a PS1 and a little like Rubbermaid Tupperware thing with like 6 or 7 games in it. And he was just like, I don't really want to take it with me. Do you think you'll use it at all? And I was like, you know what? Yeah, just keep it here. Why not? And I plugged it in, and I don't even remember exactly which games were what, and a couple of them I didn't even like. And I started playing, and I was like, God damn it. I miss this. I need this. It is, I do not fully wrap my identity solely as a gamer, a video game player, or whatever else, but it is such a facet of my personal history and something I enjoy that I reconnected with that, playing on that PS1, playing whichever random PS1 titles there were in there. I think Crash Bandicoot 2 was one of them. And it's like, oh man, I've played so much Crash Bandicoot. Let me play that a little bit. God damn it. I need video games. And it's not that I needed tons and tons of them. It was just, I feel better. I flourish. I enjoy this hobby. I enjoy this medium to the point where we're here now, like 10 years later, after getting that PS1. But yeah, it was about 10 years ago. So I'm thankful for that PS1. I'm thankful for that random generosity of, you know what, I'm not going to play this anymore. Do you want to play it? And as a game collector now, I try to pay that forward as much as I can. I've definitely given pieces of my collection to people because I realized I accidentally, like through buying a lot from someone, have a few extras. And a friend was over not too long ago and was talking about how much they love Soul Calibur 2. And they got their GameCube out of like their mom's house. And that game got smashed in the move and everything. I was like, you know what? I actually think I have 2. And was able to give that to her.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
And oh my God, no, she was so happy about it. I was so happy to do it. Like it wasn't, I didn't need her to thank me. She thanked me, of course. But it was just like, you love this game. I'm not taking anything away from myself here. You have this experience too. And I know that there are people all the time doing that. And even when it's helping each other out in WoW Classic or, I don't know, guiding somebody through a campaign or, you know, Sarah likes to play Dragon Age Inquisition, but she enjoys it much more at our friend's apartment where they've beaten the campaign so many times so that she can be like, all right, what am I doing next? She knows.
Yeah, I think generosity through gaming is very much a thing I'm thankful for too. I mean, it's no secret I donated to your massive collection myself when I got rid of my Xbox and gave you a few things, including a PlayStation game that I could have kept, but you were so excited to have a PlayStation copy of Marvel vs. Capcom.
I don't care how long the loading takes. It's so fun.
And I agree. I mean, it's no secret to anyone who's been listening, but I did Extra Life this year, as I've tried to do every year, because playing games for 24 hours till I'm delirious while people give me money to sponsor me, essentially, so I can raise money is and I didn't just play video games. I played some board games, I love giving back in that way. There's something intoxicating about being able to do that for others, and even giving people stuff that you don't need. Like I've given you old GameCube memory cards, because you're someone who has a place to keep this stuff. You have a collection already, and if I want to play it, I'm never going to play it at home because I have so much other stuff to play. I'll play it when I come see you, and we can play it together.
Right, and it's those things that you share, and the fact that, like, not just Extra Life, but there's been so much charity, both literally and figuratively, made and done and shared through Twitch streaming, through, Games Done Quick, through RPG Limit Break, on individual levels, like H Bomber Guy's 57-hour Donkey Kong 64 stream that raised over $300,000 for a trans charity.
Yep.
About a Child's Play, and there's been so much because, and some of it is from the fact that people, there is such an image of gamers are selfish, gamers are entitled, gamers are violent ticking time bombs waiting to happen. And people from all walks of life and all kinds of places have went, no. And while you're going to be angry about that, I'm going to enact some change. And it is a moving and beautiful thing. I know we've talked about it in the past. We'll talk about it in the future. And I am always, like, in all of the global and local ways that gamers can and are generous with each other, with strangers, with friends. I'm thankful for that.
Same. I think, I don't know if I've told this on the podcast, but the reason that I'm a fan of Game Boy, and because Kirby is one of my favorite characters, is because when I was in public school, a friend of mine had just gotten a Game Boy, either a Game Boy Pocket or a Game Boy Color, one or the other, whichever came out first. I think it was the Pocket. And he got an extra copy of Kirby's Adventure, or Kirby's Dream Land.
Right.
And he was like, and I was ogling it, the game in school. He would bring it and we'd play during lunch. And so one day he brought in his old brick of a Game Boy with the battery pack still in it, the charger cable, and a copy of Kirby, and said, here, you can have this. I don't need it. This was way before the days of selling games to GameStop, or it was early enough that he didn't think to do it. He didn't charge me for it. He just said, here, I don't need this anymore. You can have it. And I had a Game Boy suddenly. And so then I could spend my money on just getting a carrying case, some new games. And it's because of that kind of generosity that Kirby, not only is Kirby one of my favorite characters of all time, but I fell in love with handheld gaming in a way that no other gaming could even hold a candle to. It's why the Switch is still my favorite console, and I talk about it so much, is because having games on the go is how I grew up. And while I will always love whatever monster console I have, whether it's the PS4 now, a PC rig for gaming, or whatever, my heart will always be closest tied to handheld gaming because of that moment growing up.
Yeah. No, I that's fantastic.
And it's the generosity of others, I think, that's really important in gaming. And I think it's why the best of us get on so well, and why podcasts like ours and Reignite and Games Gone and Waypoint and Fanbyte and all of these other gaming media or gaming fan podcasts exist, and there are hundreds of others, is because we're people who grew up with being thankful for gaming on one level or another, either from or giving kindness, because I think those two things for a fandom like this are super interconnected. Like when we talked about in our Twitch episode about watching people play games, it's sharing experiences, giving experiences. The reason I have any like rose-colored glasses for Resident Evil 2, a game that still terrifies me now as a grown-ass man, is because I played it with my friend being terrified, you know?
Yeah.
I grew up with friends who would lend games back and forth. I just realized that the creator of Pokemon created one of my favorite Nintendo games, and I had no idea it was a Game Freak game until the other day, which is called Mabel Palace, Mabel Palace, I think it's called. And it's this game where you like flip tiles and slide tiles to kill enemies.
Huh.
And it was the first game Game Freak published and the creator of Pokemon published. I think it was published with Capcom, maybe. It was in a Did You Know Gaming recently, and I was like, I loved that game. That game is part of my core essence as a gamer, and so I've been a fan of Game Freak since before Pokemon. Like, I would have never known that until I watched that video, and it like strengthened my resolve as someone, as a gamer and someone who loves video games. Is like, oh, I guess there is a through line to the things I like. Who knew? You know.
Yeah, it's true. And while there's all sorts of things about the industry that are toxic,
for sure,
and are that there needs to be some real change and some big shifts, but yeah, you can still see the thumbprint of creators through some of their games. You can see fans and creators doing all kinds of fun things with old and new properties. I was watching the RPG Limit Break stream Questing for Glory 3 last week, and I saw there's been a big thing of have you watched any randomizer runs on Twitch?
I've watched them on YouTube, but The Completionist and That One Video Gamer did Zelda randomized. They did Super Metroid randomized. I've seen a few of them.
Yeah, for those who don't know, it's exactly what it sounds like. It is the framework of that original game, but if it's one where you find items, they're now in different places. The location might be the same, but it'll be a different item. Or that door doesn't lead to that dungeon anymore. It's like someone took the second quest from Legend of Zelda and just went, hold my beer.
Yeah, pretty much.
I saw a randomizer of my favorite NES game of all time, Crystalis.
Oh, God.
And oh man, that was a trip. I'm just like, this is hurting my head. I can't look away, and it's remarkable to see the love and effort and community that is made with that. One of the minds behind that randomizer was on the stream, and so there'd be stuff like, oh yeah, that'll be updated to the next one, or that was a lot of fun to do, and oh, we can do this now, and new things evolve and old things evolve, and we bring our experiences, whether through all these, like all the wonderful podcasts that, I guess we're a part of, and just all of these wonderful experiences and history that is personal and that is shared. I love it.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say we're both pretty thankful for the community. I think something that's really important about what you were talking about with that randomizer stream, and just in general with things like Twitch and YouTube, which are two of the biggest channels for gaming, since there isn't really gaming. There is gaming TV, but not to the level there was decades ago. But it's really taken to the internet in a way that has made being someone who loves video games so much more satisfying, because you can connect with so many people so easily, and not just like talking about us streaming, but like watching other people play games and experience things that, I'm thankful for the ability to experience a game without owning it or playing it. And if that's all I want to do is experience it, I can do it. For example, before we started recording, I was watching Adam Conover, yes, the one who ruins everything, Twitch stream Death Stranding. Death Stranding is a game I still currently have no interest in ever playing. I respect Kojima, but as I've said on this podcast, I am not a fan of his work. It's just not a thing I was into, and Geoff is very much the opposite. Mm-hmm. But that said, I am still absolutely fascinated by this event that is Death Stranding, and being able to watch someone else play it, because it's still a gorgeous game to look at and a bizarre game to experience. That's satisfying for me, and I can do that thanks to modern technology. I don't have to spend $60 on a game to experience it. I can spend nothing. Well, not true. I have to pay for my internet connection, the computer I'm using, but you get the idea.
Sunk cost.
Right. Like, I don't have to pay anything new to experience it. I could just watch someone else play it. And maybe at some point that'll make me interested in spending the money on it. But at the end of the day, you know, I'm thankful that I can still enjoy aspects of this industry and this art form that I would have never been able to when we were kids, because unless you had it, or your friend had it, or a friend's friend had it, you couldn't play it or see it.
Yep. I think at the end of the day, for all of its highs and lows that we acknowledge, I think what the both of us are most thankful for is the community of gaming.
Yes, without a doubt. And our audience, of course. Like the fact that even 10 of you listen, 20 of you listen, however many, if it's 2 of you listen, the fact that people are engaged and interested and want to talk about games. At the end of the day, that's what gaming is. You know, I think Geoff and I are both in agreement that like we came to gaming to do it with other people. You know, doing it by yourself is fun. And
yes.
And I don't mind it, but I think like I played Pokemon today for a few hours and it was fun, but I had way more fun not doing anything in that game except for raiding with a friend of mine, because playing with him was more fun because we're engaging in it together. It's communal. And at the end of the day, that's absolutely what's most important to me about video games. And the fact that no matter what level I can share it on, whether you're an intense gamer, someone who loves gaming to your core, or someone like my spouse who engages with gaming because she knows I like it, and we still had a blast playing Goose Game together and laughing our asses off, because there's an entry point for everyone everywhere. And being open to that and being in a community that's open to that has changed video games forever for me, I think.
Yeah.
Was I too eloquent?
No, it's fine. It's amazing. It was good. I don't need to add to that.
And at the end of the day, of course, we always want to know what you are all thankful for. If there is a specific moment in gaming history, in your gaming life, or just a game you're really thankful for, like Chrono Trigger, the best game ever made, I'm going to move right along. Please share those experiences with us. At the end of the day, we are making this to have a conversation with you because we love engaging in the conversation. We are all super thankful to have gaming as an art and as a medium to engage with each other.
We are thankful for the history. We are thankful for the future. We are thankful for this conversation. Thank you for being a part of it. I'm Geoff Moonen.
And I am Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
And happy gaming.